everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Radium Girls. I'm Valerie.
And I'm Sarah.
And today
it's birthday episode.
It's a birthday episode. I'm not looking too hot today because we had a night yesterday. Or
Val had a night last night.
Yeah, so I'm feeling it today.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We hung out with some great people and
had some drinks.
It was fun.
Yeah, so we have a really interesting story for you today. It's a kind of like a history story about the American Crowbar.
Interesting.
The American Crowbar case.
American Crowbar case.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, right? I don't even know.
It is.
It's crazy.
Well, I've never heard of this before, so I'm excited to dive in and deliver you guys a story alongside me.
Yes,
alongside me hearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get going.
Okay.
Phineas P. Gage was an American railroad construction foreman known for his improbable survival of an accident in which a large iron rod was driven completely through his head, destroying much of his brain's left frontal lobe, and for that injury's reported effects on his personality and behavior over the remaining 12 years of his life, effects sufficiently profound that friends saw him for at least a time as no longer Gage.
That's Gage.
Gage was the first of 5 children born to Jesse Eaton Gage and Hannah Trussell Swetland Gage of Grafton County, New Hampshire. Little is known about his upbringing and education beyond that he was literate. Physician John Martin Harlow, who knew Gage before his accident, described him as a perfectly healthy, strong, and active young man, 25 years of age, nervobilious temperament, 5 feet 6 inches in height, average weight of 150 pounds, processing an iron will as well as an iron frame, muscular system unusually well developed, having had scarcely a day's illness from his childhood to the date of his injury. In the pseudoscience of phrenology, which was then just ending its vogue, nervobilious denoted an unusual combination of excitable and active mental powers with energy and strength of mind and body, making possible the endurance of great mental and physical labor. Gage may have first worked with explosives on farms as a youth or in nearby mines and quarries. In July of 1848, he was employed on construction of the Hudson River Railroad near Cortlandt Town, New York, and by September he was a blasting foreman, possibly an independent contractor, on railway construction projects. His employer's most efficient and capable foreman, a shrewd, smart businessman, very energetic and persistent in executing all his plans of operation. He had even commissioned a custom-made tampering iron, a large iron rod, for use in setting explosive charges. Interesting.
On September 13th, 1848, Gage was directing a work gang blasting rock while preparing the roadbed for the Rutland and Burlington Railroad south of the village of Cavendish, Vermont. Setting a blast entailed boring a hole into an outcrop of rock, adding blasting powder and a fuse, then using the tampering iron to tamp sand, clay, or other inert material into the hole above the powder in order to contain the blast energy and direct it into the surrounding rock. As Gage was doing this around 4:30 p.m., his attention was attracted by his men working behind him. Looking over his right shoulder and inadvertently bringing his head into the line with the blast hole and tampering iron, Gage opened his mouth to speak. In that same instant, the tampering iron sparked against the rock, and possibly because the sand had been omitted, the powder exploded. Rocketed from the hole, the tampering iron, 1¼ inches in diameter, 3 feet 7 inches long, and weighing 13¼ pounds, entering the left side of Gage's face in an upward direction, just forward of the angle of the lower jaw.
Ow.
Yeah. Continuing upward outside the upper jaw and possibly fracturing the cheekbone. It passed behind the left eye through the left side of the brain, then completely out the top of the skull through the frontal bone.
Damn.
So, yeah, that happened.
That sounds rough.
That does. And we're going to insert some pictures so you can see the tampering iron. You can see where it entered his head. It's crazy.
This is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Despite 19th century references to Gage as the American crowbar case, his tampering iron did not have the bend or claw sometimes associated with the term crowbar. Rather, it was simply a pointed cylinder, something like a javelin, round and fairly smooth. The end, which entered Gage's cheek first, is pointed, the taper being 11 inches long, ending in a quarter-inch point. Circumstances to which the patient perhaps owes his life. The iron is unlike any other and was made by a neighboring blacksmith to please the fancy of the owner. The tampering iron landed point first, some 80 feet away, smeared with blood and brain.
So it went straight through him?
Yeah. Just like, phew,
Dang.
shot straight up in the air.
I mean, that makes sense, I guess. It was a pretty big blast.
Freaking sucks.
Yeah. Dang. Oof. Okay. Gage was thrown onto his back and gave some brief convulsions of the arms and legs, but spoke within a few minutes, walked with little assistance, and sat upright in an ox cart for the 3/4 of a mile ride to his lodgings in town. God damn, that's crazy. A possibly apocryphal contemporary newspaper report claimed that Gage, while en route, made an entry into his time book, the record of his crew's hours and wages. About 30 minutes after the accident, physician Edward H. Williams found Gage sitting in a chair outside the hotel and was greeted with one of the great understatements of medical history. When I drove up, he said, "Doctor, here is business enough for you. I first noticed the wound upon the head before I alighted from my carriage, the pulsations of the brain being very distinct. The top of the... yeah, it's crazy. The top of the head appeared somewhat like an inverted funnel, as if some wedge-shaped body had passed from below upward." Damn. Mr. Gage, during the time I was examining his wound, was relating the manner in which he was injured to the bystanders. I did not believe Mr. Gage's statement at that time, but thought he was deceived. Mr. Gage persisted in saying that the bar went through his head. Mr. Gage got up and vomited. The effort of vomiting pressed out about half a teacup of the brain, oh my God, through the exit hole at the top of the skull.
Ugh.
And it fell on the floor. His brain just fell out.
I don't know.
Like, part of his brain just fell out.
He vomited and brain.
Like, bleh.
Ugh.
There it went.
I'm like, put it back.
That's crazy. He was coherent enough to explain what happened, too. Like, I mean, much less like him getting up after the accident and like walking to the cart and just being aware the whole time. But like, God.
Oh God, brain's crazy, man.
It is. Or our bodies. I'm sure it was probably just like adrenaline at that point.
Yeah.
You know, just pure, like your brain's just pure adrenaline.
He's like, I'm good.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
Harlow took charge of the case around 6 p.m. You will excuse me for remarking here that the picture presented was, to one unaccustomed to military surgery, truly terrific, but the patient bore his sufferings with the most heroic firmness. He recognized me at once and said he hoped he was not much hurt. He seemed to be perfectly conscious but was getting exhausted from the hemorrhage. His person and the bed on which he was laid were literally one gore of blood. Damn. Gage was also swallowing blood, which he regurgitated for every 15 to 20 minutes.
Surprised he had any brain left, man.
Right. This is crazy.
Ugh. Brain and blood.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Insane.
With Williams's assistance, Harlow shaved the scalp around the region of the tampering iron's exit, then removed coagulated blood, small bone fragments, and an ounce or more of protruding brain.
Damn.
After probing for foreign bodies and replacing 2 large detached pieces of bone, Harlow closed the wound with adhesive straps, leaving it partially open for drainage. The entrance wound in the cheek was bandaged only loosely for the same reason. A wet compress was applied, then a nightcap, then further bandaging to secure the dressing. Harlow also dressed Gage's hands and forearms, which along with his face had been deeply burned, and ordered that Gage's head be kept elevated.
Damn.
They weren't even talking about his burns.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Late that evening, Harlow noted mind clear, constant agitation of his legs, being alternately retracted and extended, says he does not care to see his friends and shall be at work in a few days.
Wow.
It's determination.
That is.
I would never.
No.
No.
Lawsuit. Like.
Something. Dang.
That's crazy.
Despite his own optimism, Gage's convalescence was long, difficult, and uneven. Though recognizing his mother and uncle, someone from Lebanon, New Hampshire, 30 miles away on the morning after the accident, on the second day he lost control of his mind and became decidedly delirious. By the fourth day, he was again rational, knows his friends. And after a week's further improvement, Harlow entertained for the first time the thought that it was possible for Gage to recover. This improvement, however, was of short duration.
Damn.
Beginning 12 days after the accident, Gage was semi-comatose, seldom speaking unless spoken to, and then answering only in monosyllables. And on the 13th day, Harlow noted, failing strength, coma deepened. The globe of the left eye became more protuberant with fungus. Pushing out rapidly from the internal canthus, as well as from the wounded brain, and coming out the top of the head. By the 14th day, the exhalations from the mouth and head are horribly fetid. Comatose, but will answer in monosyllables if aroused, will not take nourishment unless strongly urged. The friends and attendants are in hourly expectancy of his death and have his coffin and clothes in readiness.
Damn. Galvanized to action, Harlow cut off the fungi which were sprouting out from the top of the brain and filling the opening, and made free application of caustic to them, which is like crystalline silver nitrate. With a scalpel, I laid open the frontalis muscle from the exit wound down to the top of the nose, and immediately there were discharged 8 ounces of ill-conditioned pus, with blood and excessively fetid. Gage was lucky to encounter Dr. Harlow when he did, writes Barker. Few doctors in 1848 would have had the experience with cerebral abscess with which Harlow left Jefferson Medical College and which probably saved Gage's life. For real, that's like what I was thinking, like this is the late 1800s or mid 1800s. Like, how did he know like how to do all that?
No.
It's just crazy to me, medical history and stuff like
idea.
that.
They're
It's
just
crazy.
Experimenting.
Yeah. That was my thought. Like, have they ever had a situation where they have had to do that?
It's crazy. Like,
That's insane.
it seems like a, what do you call, like those wild accidents or whatever?
A freak accident?
Yeah, freak accident.
Unique?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something unique.
Yeah. On the 24th day, Gage succeeded in raising himself up and took one step to his chair. 1 month later, he was walking up and down stairs and about the house into the piazza. And while Harlow was absent for a week, Gage was in the street every day except Sunday, his desire to return to his family in New Hampshire being uncontrollable by his friends. He went out without an overcoat and with thin boots, got wet feet and a chill. He soon developed a fever, but by mid-November, he was feeling better in every respect and walking around the house again. Harlow's prognosis at this point, Gage appears to be in a way of recovering if he can be controlled. By November 25th, 10 weeks after his injury, Gage was strong enough to return to his parents' home in Lebanon, New Hampshire, traveling there in a closed carriage, which was an enclosed conveyance of the kind used for transporting the insane. Though quite feeble and thin, weak and childish, on arriving by late December, he was riding out, improving both mentally and physically, and by February of 1849, he was able to do a little work about the horses and barn, feeding the cattle, etc., and as the time for ploughing came, about May or June, he was able to do half a day's work after that and bore it well. In August, his mother told an inquiring physician that his memory seemed somewhat impaired, though slightly enough that a stranger would not notice. Whoa.
In April of 1849, Gage returned to Cavendish and visited Harlow, who noted at that time loss of vision and ptosis of the left eye, a large scar on the forehead from Harlow's draining of the abscess. Upon the top of the head, a quadrangular fragment of bone, raised and quite prominent. Behind this is a deep depression, 2 inches by 1½ inches wide, beneath which the pulsations of the brain can be perceived. No! He needs something in there.
Yeah.
Partial paralysis of the left side of the face. His physical health is good, and I am inclined to say he has recovered. He has no pain in the head, but says it has a queer feeling which he is not able to describe. It's probably because you can feel your head or your brain.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, you can see like the indention thingy.
Mm-hmm.
That's all its eye. Gage's rearmost left upper molar, adjacent to the point of entry through the cheek, was also lost. Though a year later some weakness remained, Harlow wrote that physically the recovery was quite complete during the 4 years immediately succeeding the injury.
So this doctor's like, I'm going to study you.
Right?
Like, I'm going to follow this case to the end.
He's like, interesting.
Yeah, I would too, honestly. That's
real.
pretty crazy.
Ugh. In November of 1849, Henry Jacob Bigelow, the professor of surgery at Harvard Medical School.
Not the gigolo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to.
Brought Gage to Boston for several weeks, and after satisfying himself that the tampering iron had actually passed through Gage's head, presented him to a meeting of the Boston Society for Medical Improvement and possibly to the medical school class. Unable to reclaim his railroad job, Gage was for a time a kind of living museum exhibit at Barnum's American Museum in New York City. Advertisements have also been found for public appearances by Gage, which he may have arranged and promoted himself in New Hampshire and Vermont, supporting Harlow's statement that Gage made public appearances in most of the larger New England towns. Years later, Bigelow wrote that Gage had been a shrewd and intelligent man and quite disposed to do anything of that sort to turn an honest penny. But gave up such efforts because that sort of thing was not much interest for the general public.
I guess we're not the general public.
I know, right? They're like, what? Mm-hmm. Let me see your brain.
Yeah, let me see it.
See them pulsations.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
For about 18 months, he worked for the owner of a stable and coach service in Hanover, New Hampshire. In August 1852, Gage was invited to Chile to work as a long-distance stagecoach driver there, caring for horses and often driving a coach heavily laden and drawn by 6 horses on the Valparaiso? Valparaiso. On the Valparaiso-Santiago route. We're going to roll with it. After his health began to fail in mid-1859, he left Chile for San Francisco, arriving, in his mother's words, in a feeble condition, having failed very much since he left New Hampshire. He had many ill turns while in Valparaiso, especially during the last year, and suffered much from hardship and exposure. In San Francisco, he recovered under the care of his mother and sister, who had relocated there from New Hampshire around the time he went to Chile. Then, anxious to work, he found employment with a farmer in Santa Clara. In February of 1860, Gage began to have epileptic seizures. He lost his job and wrote Harlow as the seizures increased in frequency and severity. He continued to work in various places, though he could not do much.
He's just eager to work.
Yeah. That drive never died. On May 18th, 1860, Gage left Santa Clara and went home to his mother. At 5:00 a.m. on the 20th, he had a severe convulsion. The family physician was called in and bled him. What?
What?
What does that mean?
They used to do that back in the day. They just would let you bleed out or something for a little bit.
Prevent or cure blood.
Bloodletting.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know how that's going to help, but
Yeah,
they're like, what else could we do?
that's true. That's true. Duh. God, Sarah. Okay. The convulsions were repeated frequently during the succeeding day and night, and he died in status epilepticus in or near San Francisco late on May 21st, 1860. That's sad.
Yeah.
He was buried in San Francisco's Lone Mountain Cemetery. In 1866, Harlow, who had lost all trace of Gage and had well nigh abandoned all expectation of ever hearing from him again, somehow learned that Gage had died in California and made contact with his family there. At Harlow's request, the family had Gage's skull exhumed and then personally delivered it to Harlow, who was by then a prominent physician, businessman, and civic leader in Woburn, Massachusetts.
Dang, had his head
Whoa.
exhumed.
Too far. Yeah, that's crazy. The parents were just like, here you go.
Yeah, they brought it to personally delivered.
Yeah. For science, I guess, you know.
But personally
They did.
delivered?
I would. I'd want to make sure if I don't want to say that, but I would want to make sure that the skull that I cared for so deeply arrived where I intended to.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. But I also like oddities like that. But I guess, you know, he did save her son's life, and extended it, 12 more years, I think it said.
I think so.
So I'd probably exhume and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have contacted him when he died, though.
Yeah.
Like, surely he would have wanted to be there.
How did they do that back then, though?
I don't know. Don't know. About a year after the accident, Gage had given his tampering iron to Harvard Medical School's Warren Anatomical Museum, but he later reclaimed it and made what he called my iron bar his constant companion during the remainder of his life. Now it too was delivered by Gage's family to Harlow. Though some accounts assert that Gage's iron had been buried with him, there is no evidence for this. After studying them for a triumphal 1868 retrospective paper on Gage, Harlow redeposited the iron, this time with the skull, in the Warren Museum, where they remain on display today. We should go.
I know, it's crazy. I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it.
It's kind of cool that it's in a museum.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty freaking wild.
That is wild.
Yes.
Is that the iron that killed him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was huge. That went straight through his head. Yeah. Holy shit.
So long.
It's crazy.
At least it wasn't curved, because that would have
probably
took him out.
He probably wouldn't have made it through that.
No.
It would have hooked him and
Yeah. Ripped his face off.
mm-hmm.
God, I can't imagine seeing that.
Yeah.
And then he's just like on the ground, but then he just like walks.
That's insane to me. That's
Dang.
just insane.
It is.
I don't know. That's a crazy story.
I know. Like, oh, that sent me down the rabbit hole. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Have you heard of this story before? I mean, it's a
No.
pretty old one.
Yeah,
So-
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
Oh, are you talking to them?
I was. but
My
that's
bad.
Okay.
I'm
It's
like,
okay.
no, I haven't.
It's okay. That's all good. Have you guys heard of it? That's insane.
Oh, God.
Yeah, let us know. I'm curious, like, if anybody's ever been to that museum. I think we should put that on our bucket list because that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, that'd be
But-
interesting. Ooh.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys thought about our story today. It was our birthday episode. Shout out to Val. It's our birthday.
Thanks.
Well, not today when you're watching this, but it's her birthday week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's birthday month.
Birthday month. Yes. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening and continuing to support us. I know we haven't really been putting out episodes every week like we usually do. It's been a little
Yeah, it's been a little
crazy. That's the word I'm looking for. Because I keep wanting to say rough, but I don't know that it's necessarily been rough. I think crazy is
Yeah.
just the word for it.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So bear with us as we,
Get all the kinks worked out.
Yeah, get all of our
life.
kinks worked out of life. Yeah, we're on our way there. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be bringing you back weekly episodes soon.
Yes.
But thank you for continuing to support our podcast by listening to us, and subscribe and give us reviews on your podcast apps and
Rate us.
rate us. That's what it is. I meant to say rate us, not reviews.
I mean,
we'll take a
reviews, too.
review. Yeah, we'll take a review. Yeah. Do you have anything?
Nope. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. And as always, stay curious.